Hey there, I want to do another installment in my very unpopular series, The Business of Making Music. That's basically I've got about, I think I've got 50 or 70 videos planned down the road. But the idea is just to kind of tell you about the music business, share things with you that I wish I knew at 25, that I'm just now learning, or I learned much later in 45, 50. And ways to make money in the music business. And today I'm going to talk about sidelining. And you've probably never heard of this term, but I guarantee you've seen guitar players and drummers and bass players and keyboard players sidelining all the time. And what sidelining is pretending to play your instrument on TV or in a movie. Whenever you go to see a movie or you see some musicians on TV, they're always union musicians. It's very rare. I mean, if it's a non-union shoot, then they can use non-union musicians. But it's a union gig, and they have to be real players. They're not really playing. They're pretending to play. But it's kind of a great way to make a little bit of extra money. It's kind of an odd job. As far as here in Los Angeles, as far as the union gigs go, sidelining is one of the lowest paying gigs. Generally, it's like under $200 for an 8-hour day. The first one I ever did was Ugly Betty. And I did that much later. I did it in 2008. You know, I'd been playing guitar, I'd been in LA for, by 2008, 25 years. And that was the first time I ever got called to do a sideline. I didn't even hardly know what one was. And so they sent me the MP3 the day before. In fact, they sent me 2 MP3s because there were 2 songs we were playing. And I had to go in for a fitting like a day or 2 before. And so they paid a little extra for that. I think it was like $35 to go in for a fitting. And then it went overtime, so it was longer than 8 hours. So you start getting a little bit better pay after you hit to 8 hours. I think it went 10 hours. I think ultimately for the day or for the gig, I made like $350. The cool thing was I got to hang out with Gene Simmons a little bit. We got our haircut at the same time. I got a free haircut, which the stylists that work on these shows, if you were to go to a salon with their quality, it would cost you $150 or something. So I got a free Hollywood haircut out of it. I got to hang with Gene Simmons, and I got to dance with one of the female leads of the show. It was pretty fun. Got to hang out. Actually, sidelining, the gig itself can be very, very boring. There's a lot of sitting around. If you do get a sidelining gig, and I'm going to tell you about how maybe you can do that in a minute, but if you do get a sidelining gig, make sure you take a book, because you're going to be sitting around a long time, and then when they call you and they want you on stage and you're all ready and they get the makeup ready and all that, you can't make a mistake. I mean, the only people on a set that are allowed to make a mistake are the principal actors. Other than that, everyone else is on the top of the game. And that's why I love working on these, because you're surrounded by all these people, the grips and the electricians and the cameramen and the directors and the director assistants and the PAs and all these people doing their jobs, and the dancers and the background, the extras, and then the actors, and everybody is like, man, they are on the top of their game. And I really don't know that you have to live in LA to get sidelining gigs. I know that they are filming television shows and movies all the time, all over the country, in Canada, in Vancouver, and Ottawa. They are filming in Atlanta, in Georgia all the time, in Louisiana, Maryland, also in Washington and Oregon. They're filming in Utah. I know lots of the studios film all over the country because certain states give them a tax break for moving their production there. Now, this is a question I don't know. Maybe someone can answer below. I don't know if because one of the reasons they may move to Georgia, for example, is to not have to make it a union shoot. And if it's not a union shoot, then they can have anybody up there pretending to play guitar or whatever. But you've seen them before in all sorts of TV shows and movies, and I've been in a few. Like I said, I was in Ugly Betty. I was in a TV show called The Ghost Whisperer, and that one I was playing bass. I was pretending to play bass behind Beyonce's sister Solange. And the crazy thing, we were on we were waiting at least 8 hours to shoot that scene. Once we got on stage and did our thing, it was like 2 passes through the song and we were done. So it was about 10 minutes of work for 8 hours of sitting around. But you're kind of getting paid to sit around. So I also did an episode of Samantha Who, where I got to play in a band with the Duran Duran bass player and lead singer John Taylor, and that was really fun to get to hang with him. I wasn't in an episode of The Mentalist. My hand and my guitar was in an episode of The Mentalist, because when we did the shoot, we were in Malibu. I thought, oh cool, we're a band and everything. And when I saw the show, it was like the only part of me that actually made the scene was just the lower part of my guitar. So that was kind of funny. I did an episode of Heart of Dixie where I pretended to play banjo. And again, they send me the music in advance. I think on that one, they didn't necessarily have any music, and I sent them music saying, hey, if you want to use this, you're more than welcome to. I own it, you can use it. And I had a banjo tune that I sent them, and they already had a tune. But that was a way of actually kind of sneaking in and getting a little bit of music on the show, just in case, because that would pay totally extra. The only movie I've done was Gangster Squad with Ryan Gosling, and I spent 5 days on that. So that was a long shoot, and that one was a lot of fun. Again, a lot of waiting around. Much of the time I'm wearing this vintage 1940s tux. I'm including pictures here so you can see. And I got to spend basically 5 days, staring at Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone and Sean Penn. It was pretty cool. I get to hang out with, I didn't get to hang out necessarily, although I did talk to Ryan a little bit because he wanted to jam on my guitar. And Josh Brolin was in it, and one of the coolest things was the 5th day I was doing a different scene, and I was playing classical guitar behind an actress playing Carmen Miranda. So that was pretty cool. And this scene basically got cut from the movie. There's a very little of it that's in the movie, but one of the things that happened was the scene is just a small band. I'm playing classical guitar, and Josh Brolin comes in with a bunch of guys to kind of blow up this nightclub. And he stands right next to me and shoots off a shotgun straight up at the ceiling. And then they have this fake ceiling fall down. And every time he turned to me and he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Tom, I apologize." And I said, "Dude, are you kidding? This is like the coolest night of my life." And then they clean everything up. We have to reset it. It takes like 30 minutes to do that, and they do the scene again. And he apologized again every time. And then he wanted to play my guitar, and he was playing some Metallica tunes and some, who else was he playing? Like System of a Down or something. He was like a really cool guy. And so one of the things too, about the gig is the musicians, just so you know what's going on, the musicians have these things, they're called earwigs, and they're wireless earpieces. You can't really see them. Even the wire coming off of them is flesh colored, so you really can't see it. And you stick them in your ear, you usually only have one. And what they'll do is, I'll give the example of Gangster Squad. They will play the music really loud so everybody in the room can hear it, and the dancers hear it, and everybody gets moving and everything, and then they say action, and as soon as the actors get really close to starting their bit, they shut off the music in the room. And so the only people with the music are the musicians. So, and for that movie, I bought a 40s K archtop. I wanted to be really legit, so it gave me an excuse to buy a guitar. And I love this guitar, it's a great guitar. And I bought this K archtop, and I'm playing it, but I'm missing the strings. So you can't make any sound because they are recording dialogue. So it's crazy. You'll have a room of 100 people, dancers and everything. And I was amazed at how the dancers could look like they were dancing and not make any sound with their feet. And they were watching me because they didn't have earwigs. So they were watching my hand and they were watching the drummer play. And we're all basically not playing. We're just missing the strings, not blowing any air in the saxophone. The drummers, they have a real hard time. They have to miss cymbals or whatever. Some of them are really good. They'll take their finger and they'll push the cymbal down so it moves when they hit it. So next time you're watching a show or a movie, look at the musicians in the background if there's a scene with them, and just notice how they're doing their thing. And sometimes we actually for the Gangster Squad, we had a lot of songs, and we had charts, so we were actually playing along with the music. My hands were always in the right spot for where we were in the music. And then what they do is later, it's all synced. They later put the music back in the background behind the dialogue. The main thing is that they get the dialogue recorded very, very cleanly. So that's a gig called sidelining. And like I said, it doesn't pay a lot, at least not then. But then there's this thing called secondary market. And so if you're getting paid to be on a TV show, like for example, Ugly Betty, I made maybe $350 for the entire day, and plus the day I had to come in and do a fitting. But you're only getting paid for the first airing of that show. And then when they re-air that show, like on the repeat, they pay you again a little bit. And then when the when the show goes into syndication, or if it plays on airplanes, or if it goes overseas, or DVD sales, you get a small fraction of all of those things. And so that $300 a day turned into a couple thousand, maybe $3,000 or $4,000 over the last 10 years in secondary market. Now that's only if it's a union gig. If it's non-union, then they might pay you a little bit more on the day you do it, but then there's no back end at all. So again, how would you get those gigs? Well, there's a couple things you want to do. You want to find out if there's any productions in your town or in your area. And they're always looking to hire local. In fact, I got called recently asking if I was from Oklahoma, because a composer I worked for was working on a movie that was being financed or given tax breaks from the state of Oklahoma, and they were trying to use as many Oklahoma citizens as they could, and I said, no, I'm not from Oklahoma, so I've never even lived there, so I couldn't. But so they're probably looking for someone that can kind of get up there and fake it. And the other thing is, you don't have to be young. You don't have to. They're looking for every shape, size, color. It doesn't matter. I've worked with in all different scenarios. I'm getting older, so obviously they're not going to put me in a young hip rock group or something like that. But they did. I had wore, like with John Taylor, I wore a wig. I looked like Brian May. It was hilarious. You might. So one of the people you want to know, you want to try to find out who the contract. You want to join the union and find out who the contractors are in the area. Let them know you're interested in sidelining. They're going to ask you for like a headshot. You know, it's a photo audition. You don't have to go and audition. You send a photo and they go, nah, not the look we're looking for, or sure, whatever, that works great. You know, they don't put a lot of thought into it. And then they'll send you music and you learn it so you can fake playing it close enough. It's not anything amazing. You just have to make sure you're paying attention and stay on your game and don't hit your strings. Anyway, it's a great way to make a few extra bucks and have a lot of fun and see people around you that are really, really good at what they do. So I hope this helps. I don't know how many of you are actually going to see this, but this is good. This series is good for all musicians or for anyone that's interested in doing music for a living. Okay? God bless you. I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.